Hey folks, it's Andrew Brown. We are continuing on with the visual novel game. I believe at some point it will actually do something, but for now we are still working through it. I am still pretty excited at the current state, the fact that we have the menu going back and forth here, which is kind of nice. And then we have some controls in here, even though they're not hooked up. So now what is it that we need next? We gotta actually see a game. So now that we have something here, we do obviously want to work with like save date and stuff like that, but until we're actually rendering anything, it doesn't really matter. And we still haven't created any kind of UIs or graphics in the background here. These green boxes have been kind of okay for us currently, but I need to get the dialogue to show up. Well, the other thing is that if we have a scene, we can probably actually start seeing some graphics here if we load them in. So let's go over to our game scene over here, and we had all those things that we had. Again, the audio carried over, which I was really surprised. We haven't used the input manager whatsoever yet. I think that the next thing I'd want is the character manager. It's kind of weird that it calls it character manager, but it's background and scene elements. So I'm going to go here and bring that back in here. And somewhere in here we have our character manager. Here it is. Okay. And we have a bunch of characters that we can work with. We also have to create this character manager. It has to be initialized somehow. Our global manager manages those ones because those are between systems. But this one's a little bit different, so we need to say this dot character manager. No, character manager. Yeah, and so that way we are actually initializing it. So let's take a look at what we have here. So we have the scene, width and height, which we can do there. I mean, we never ever not want it full screen, so that doesn't really matter. We have character and background. So we have our characters with expressions, which we don't have any difference with. We have our background, which we have our interiors, which again is all the same. Then we want to create our background, we want to create our character. So this is going to add it to the scene and put it into the large width. Here we're positioning the character slightly center. It doesn't need to do that. The character X and Y should be 0 and 0 because the image is perfectly fit for the screen, right? There's no case we'd ever do anything else. Here, it is loading in Alex initially, so that, and the apartment initially, which is not what we want, but that's fine for now, as we will need to load in this stuff. We have create character and background, and they set them there, so that's fine, I guess. Background, display size to that. Probably does half width, half height for the image. Why is it doing that? Oh, because maybe it's centering it. 0, 0. That's probably what it's doing. Because we can just go and set origin on that. So we go this dot background, set origin. Origin. 0, 0. There we go. Same thing with the character. So here it's setting it as false initially. But for now, we're just going to have it show, right? So nothing super complicated. And I'm going to go back over to here. It seems that we're spelling character manager wrong. And we'll start it up. Almost seems like we're going to have to walk through our code anyway. I still think it was useful that it created out the code, even though we're kind of gutting it all. And there we go. So we have our first character showing up on screen, though they are over top of the buttons. So maybe we need to put our character manager and have that happen first. So right now we're just kind of manually managing these UIs this way. We'll get this nice refresh here. Okay, and so now our buttons are on top. And we got our nice Canadian, depends on where you are, but this is your Canadian roommate. It's either good or bad, considering, because you're both sleeping in the same room. It's kind of unusual. But the point is that we have our first image up here. So now what we need to do is, well, we need to control like when they show up and when they don't. But we need to start driving the game, right? So we need to get a dialogue screen up. And so obviously our character screen doesn't do a whole lot here. Our dialogue manager, like there's the UI and then there's the manager, right? So let's get this set up next. We're going to say this dot dialogue manager. Good. And then we're going to go ahead and create that. So we'll go over to here to our dialogue. I don't know if we have to create the dialogue manager, but we'll go here. We have a scene. We have things like the text typing speed from the scene game setting. That's not how it would set up. Choosing options false, complete dialogue complete false. These settings here, we don't need them in here, right? We have typing effect, dialogue data, current dialogue ID, current scene, things like that. Again, I'm not sure how we want to set those, but here we have load the scene. And so this will be called after the UI is created. Sure, maybe. Load the current scene data. So it says this scene.game settings current scene. That's not how we get current scene right now. We get current scene through the settings, right? That's how we get it. Let's see how we do it for the audio. The audio one, because I remember we actually passed it through here. Global managers. So I'm going to go here and just set globals managers up here so we actually have access to it. So global managers. And we'll go here and set this .g. And so now we can access our settings. We get settings through this .get settings thing here like this. Right? So whatever we need to set, we can set up here initially, those values. We don't need to change the volume, of course, but we are just doing that so that we can get something like current scene. So I don't remember what we set as our value. So I need to go take a look at wherever that was initially set. Maybe it was set in our settings one. Before we do that, I need to make sure that we pass in that global managers before I forget. So I'm going to go into the games scene, and I'm looking for in here in the game scene where I initialized this here, the character manager. And so I'm going to go ahead and just do this .g so that we now have access to the globals manager. I need to go into the settings in the managers here. And in here, I just trying to figure out what settings we have. We have language, text speed, auto advance. Oh, it's actually in our save data, right? It's because settings and save data are completely separate. Now, of course, we need to load in settings, but we also need to load in saves, right? So I didn't really think about that. So here, this is going to be important for settings like language. Go here, language. Language doesn't want it complete for me. We have text speed. I don't think you really should be changing text speed, but we'll see here. We have auto advanced. I don't know how that's going to work. Auto speed, like what's the difference between that and that? I don't understand. We have font size. That's more for the UI. Typewriter effect. Okay, if we decide to have these here, language. It's not autocompleting anymore. I don't know why not. It's like I'm manually coding, which is not a big deal. I'm totally fine doing everything by hand. But I was kind of used to it updating the code. Maybe did I hit my limit finally with windsurf? Did I finally hit my windsurf limit? I don't know. Can't tell. I can't tell. Plan info. We're out of premium flow credits. Premium flow actions. Premium user prompt credits. Credits are new in 11 days. I don't know. I might be completely out. Running out of premium, I don't know. I've never used it this heavily before. So even if we're out, like we're kind of at a point where I can kind of manage. So the hard stuff's kind of out of the way for me. But anyway, we know that we want to load these values into here. The thing that I want is to show the save data. So save data is a little bit different, right? So in here, we need our save data. We have default settings. The idea is that when we make a new game, we're supposed to create that initial data, right? And that gets stored in our our stuff. So we have new and then we have load. So we are kind of have to take a step back here, even though we are starting to see something on the screen, which is kind of nice. But I need to go back to our menu scene here, and we have to go back to our start action. So we have start, but we also should have a load and a continue. So continue, we don't have load. This dot G dot, yeah, we are out. We are out. I don't care. I can handle. Strange. I finally ran out. That's so weird. Load game. Load game. Never have I ran out. I guess I just had to really go at it for quite a long time. So now we have our load game, right? So we have this. We need load game. And this one's going to be this, load game, env. We'll need to do continue game. Oh, it's kind of auto-completing some here. Save game. We don't need a save game. We just need continue. Continue game. Some of it's kind of waking back up there, which is fine. But the thing is, like, before we transition to scene, we do need to do that. But before we do that, we need to actually load. Yeah, the same thing with this one. Well, this one's a little bit different because to load the game, sorry, continue's easy. Continue's easy, but it's going to be a bit of a challenge for, no, it's supposed to be change scene. It's going to be a bit of a challenge for this one because this one, we actually have to, show load settings screen, right? Like what was the last thing we saved? I really hope we don't have to go and make a bunch of UI again. I really, really don't want to do that right now, but that is a menu that we do need to create. But the idea is that when we start a game, we need to actually create the game, right? So starting the game requires us to use the saves manager, or sorry, the this.g.saves manager. I'm not sure what it's actually called. Notice I tried to do saves manager, even though that is not a thing. But if we go into our global manager here, just double check what it actually is. Global manager. Where are you, global manager? You're somewhere here. Here you are. In here, we have, yeah, it's called saves. That's right. So it's just called saves. And so now, I know it's kind of auto-completing, but I don't care. I'm just kind of driving manually because I kind of felt like I was out of credits. So maybe I'm not fully out of credits, but I kind of feel like I am. So we have save, get save, stuff like that. So save will save data to a specific slot. If we have has save, all save, delete save, get all save, that doesn't really matter. I want to just make a new game. So load, save. The thing is, like, if you make a new game, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are saving a game, right? So maybe this is not our problem. We don't actually have to do that. Like we could make it so like at the start of it, you save it, but normally where you save is when you actually hit save. I noticed that with these games, that's how they do them. I'm not saying that's whether that's good or bad. I'm just going to try to follow what I've seen. And so what I want to do here is go back to the, back into the, what do you call it? The other scene, the actual game scene. Okay. So we know that's fine for now, but we do have to think about our saves. So we do have to load save data in here. And so, I mean, yes, of course, start the game. Not sure why this is showing up. That's really annoying. Whatever this thing is in the middle of my screen. If we can get out of here, close all these. There we go. We do need to go here. And we do need to load the game. So here, yeah, it's already trying to do that. But my question here is, what is that going to bring back? Right? So we go into our load. Oof. I haven't been using this key at all. Where's my control? Control P, Control T. It doesn't work in here. That's actually why I've been clicking manually, because Vim is overriding it, I think, in here. So that's why I've been clicking everything manually, which is kind of crazy because I'm used to doing Control P constantly to pull that stuff up. But I'm looking for in here, I'm talking in circles so I find the thing that I need. The saves manager. So the saves manager, we do want to load. By default, it's going to load from slot 1. But maybe like really what we want to do is load the latest game. If we don't specify it, really it should do that, not actually load slot 1. And so I would say that if you don't load, right, so if there is no slot, slot is null, 0. And so slot is null, null. So, you know, if slot is null, then it should try to load the latest, the slot data that was saved last, right? That's what it should do, okay? Maybe, no, let me think about this for a second. I mean, that's if the load works. So I'm going to leave that alone for now. But right now, like, yes, we are trying to load the game. Now, I'm really trying to think of this. Because it's a new game. If we try to load something, like, we actually have to tell it what scene it actually selected here. So maybe we need to do a little bit scene-to-scene communication. And so we have change scene, and we can probably pass it a payload, I believe. And I'm going to say slot null. Slot new. There we go. So I'm going to do slot new. And then I'm going to go into, I didn't realize we could do this, but we'll go into our change scene, which is in our base controller, base scene here. And we're going to have to pass that along. So yeah, data, right, there we go. And so I believe on our create action, I don't know if it's true, but we'll see if it actually works. We might have data in here. And so I actually want to console log this out here. And we'll say console log out scene data. And I want to see if it actually passed along any of that data. Because if it did, then we know if it's actually a new scene or not, right? So go here, new game, undefined main. Different kind of problem, though, where it has this problem here on the character. I wanted to just know if it passed that data along, but we... it's having a different problem here. Scene.camera is.main_width. I'm not sure why that's our problem. Totally unexpected problem. So I'm going to go back over to here. And what I want to do, before it loads any of this other stuff that it's complaining about, I just want to make sure that this actually works. Because we are overriding that create action, and that might be causing us some issues. We'll see what we get here. So we'll go back here, give this a refresh. And, new game. Scene data slot new. So it is actually passing along, so that is good. Why the character manager all of a sudden is messing up, I have no idea. Let's go back over to here. Maybe it tried changing some of the code earlier on. I don't think it did. This.g.this. Now, we're passing this in here now. Let's go back to our character manager. Still think that's a bad name, as we should really have, well, I mean, it should be character manager, background manager. Right now, they're serving the same purpose. I might separate those out if I feel like it. And yeah, we're not passing it along. Interesting. But aren't we calling the, oh, it was in the other one. Yeah. Oh, I guess we put it in here too. I mean, I don't know if we need it, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to just say like global manager, global managers, and we'll put it in here even though we're not necessarily using it. It's just something that we probably will end up using at some point. So let's just go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and give this a nice refresh here. Let's take a look and see what we have. We have new game. New game. We got a problem here. Cannot load in game settings because this isn't a thing, right? I'm not sure why it's trying to do that. We are, we don't want to load game settings. It should just work like last time. Load scene data. Create dialogues manager. Oh, I mean, we did set up the dialogues Did we set up the dialogues manager? Where's that coming from? Super create. Dialogue manager. Where the heck is that coming from? Game scene create. here. Okay, yeah, I guess we just weren't ready for it yet. And so I created it a little bit too post-haste, right? So we'll go here, comment that out. And we do need to load our data. We don't even need our interfaces yet, to be honest. We could load our data first. And so basically, based on that slot, so if the slot is assigned as new, we're going to do a particular action, else we're going to load the game. So here now we can, well, actually this has to come after we, no, G's in here actually. But we really should do these actions first before we do anything else, just so we don't have any side effects. And I would just say that here, oh yeah, it almost has it. We have this.g.saves. This is not exactly right. What we want to do is bring in the data, and it has some default datas here. So for this one, we actually want to do this.g.saves.load. We definitely want to do that. But this one is just get the default data, right? Because right now it's a new game, so it should be the default data. I don't remember what it's called here, so we're going to go back over to our saves manager, and up here it's just default save. So we'll go here and say .default save, default save. That's going to return that there. That's not a function. It shouldn't be anyway, default save. I mean, if it is, it's fine. Yeah, it's not. So what happens when we do load is my question. It returns it. Okay, so it returns it. And so this is where we're actually getting the state game. So let's say like load game, right? And bring this on down here for now. I'm going to do this.load game, and we'll put in the data here. Load game, start game, whatever you want to call it. I mean, the game's already started in a sense. But anyway, here we are passing along the data, yeah. We probably could just say slot too, because that's exactly what it is. It's just slot. And we'll go up to here, to the data here. We'll say data.slot. And so that will get us started. So the idea is that we have this here. But the thing is, like, it returns that data, and we have our current save. So that's really what we want to, actually set. So if we go back to our load, save, get key, has key, all saves, delete save. What does load do? Load will just return the current save. And I guess those are lower level calls, I suppose. And that's probably what it wanted to do initially. So I'm going to go, and I'm just going to go ahead and just say load here instead. And I'm not sure what save does, but I want to make a new function here called load. Load, yeah, probably slot, load slot. And so this will call this, it returns it, and it will say this.current save. Right, so now we're not really setting the data that way, we're just doing it this way to get the current save. And here we'll say new, right, and this will just simply, oops, set the current save as this. Okay, so that's going to expand that data. We don't need to return anything. We just need to set that there. And so now we can go back to our load data here. And this is going to be new. I'm not sure if we should use new, as that might be a loaded word. Put slot here. I don't know if we can use new like that. Because the construct, like usually the same name is something like that. So no, I think you can use new. I think it's fine. But in some languages, you're not allowed to do that. So that could run us amok. But I think we are okay. And so that should now mean that we have this as our current information, our current scene, current chapter, current dialogue, timestamp. And so now we should be able to get the dialogue stuff going. Or even before we even do that, set up our character manager, which right now it's character manager. I really want to separate those out. I'm going to do that. Sorry, folks. I'm just going to separate those out. I'm going to make a new one and call it background manager. Background manager.js. Okay. And I'm going to just split this here. Close this out, close this out. And I'm going to go over to here, and we're going to call this class background manager. And yep, that's what I want. Yep, I want those. I don't need the width and height just yet. And I don't know, we're putting this down here. Some of them don't seem to need it, but we'll go ahead and grab it anyway. And I'm going to cut out some of the stuff, obviously. So we have the background here. And it'll go in here instead. Whoops. This dot background. Null. I'll take that out of here like this. We have our background data here. So I go ahead and paste that in like that. Whoops. And I'll cut that out. And I'll paste it in here. So now we have our background data in here as opposed to this one. We have width and height. I guess we can bring that on over. We want here. That's not what I want. Just come on. You give me what I want. What I really, really want. People know that song. They know what I'm trying to sing. Circa 1999, folks. I don't know. I think Scary Spice is the best spice, but that's just me. Anyway, I feel like Scary Spice did not get the credit she deserves. I think Scary Spice is awesome. Anyway, so we have our create background manager. Yeah, I'd probably just call it create here. I'd rather just bring in the background onto the create action like this. It's hard to say, like, unless we have more actions in our background here. Go ahead and copy this. Yeah, you know what? I'll just have it as a separate function. It's redundant, but I'm going to do that anyway, just in case in the future I want to change that. Sure, we'll just do that. That's what it wants. Yeah, and then we'll take it out there. Yeah, it knows what I want to do here. And then we want to take this function here, cut it out, and then we can manage those separately. I think that's a better idea, is to manage those separately here. So that is fine. It's not like it could do a transition. It seems like it wants to do a transition, but that's fine. And we'd have to transition the whole scene, but I guess like if you transitioned, you'd always remove the character before transitioning the scene. So we have character, create character, update character, show character, set character expression. So this one's now specific to that. To load the character in, we should really be loading in whatever is in our save data. So here we would do this.g.saves.current state. Current save, I guess. And I mean, really, we should have a function to get it, right? So I'm going to go back here because we have in our settings, save manager. Do we have a get function? We do not. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to go here and say get. I don't know, it doesn't know what to do. I'm going to bring up our settings manager here because we have a get and set for this one, right? We do. So here we have our get. I'll bring in our key here. And this is going to do return this.saves or this.current save. And then I'll do key like that. Okay, so that way, yeah, we're doing it that way. That's good. And then we have our set, which similar, but set actually I think saves. Oh, do we not even have a set in here? I thought we did. I guess we have a save. Oh, we have an update. So update the key. It's interesting they don't call it a set. We have it called update. Update a specific key. I guess I could do that. I'd rather call this one set. Set key value. I might go back and change this update one as well to that. So we'll say if key in this.current save, then we can set it because we don't want to set something that's not there. And we'll say this.current save key equals value. And so now we have a set and a get. So now we can go back over to here, and in here we'll just say get. And so then, get. And that way we grab our character ID. Now, do we have a character ID here? We don't. This is current scene. So to get the current character is a little bit different because we need the we need to get that from our intermixed with our actual dialogue data, right? So that's a little bit trickier. So like this doesn't store that. We need to get our current scene from that information. So I'm just thinking about this because now we're not going through the saves data here. We're actually going to go through the dialogue manager. And so the dialogue manager is necessary for the other two systems, the background manager and the stuff like this, which we do call global managers in here, but that's not defined within the globals manager. So we actually have to put in the dialogue manager in like this. Dialogue manager, like that. We say this.d equals dialogue manager. So that's now in here. Same thing with the character. So we'll do the same thing here. Dialogue manager, this.d, okay. Then we're gonna go back over to our game scene and we now need to pass those in there so those are there. So it needs this dot d and I'm gonna do the same, oh yeah, we need the background manager in here as well, right? Yep. And I'm gonna bring that up here, but we need to get the dialogue manager here above here. And yeah, I want to call it D. I just want it to be a little bit easier. It's not really, doesn't need to be D, it should be dialogue manager, but that's what I'm going to set it as to make, oh no, you know, I'm going to go back so it's more explicit. Dialogue manager. And then down here we have dialogue manager. As long as like we're referencing it up here so we know what it is, but inside of it, I'm totally fine with it just being called D with these other ones, as these files are a little bit smaller and we're not going to be so confused about what's going on. But this is the order that it should load in. The other thing is like we need to go back to our dialogue manager, which we haven't really done much with. And so our dialogue manager, it does have a create function in here, which would load the scene data, which actually is what we need to do. So we're going to go over to here. And I mean, I brought in all these settings, which is something, right? But what I need, we do need to set the current scene. So one thing that we do need to do, I mean, we don't need to set it because we can always just reference it, right? We don't need to set it in here. Yeah, because that's part of the save data, right? But we do want to load the dialogue data. So in here, we're getting this from this.g.save scene ID. That's how we're getting it. Okay, we don't need to set it as current scene. That's not necessary, at least not yet. And so now what we need to do is we need to grab from our cache, the actual scene. So we have dialogue data, no dialogue data found, save from the beginning or from the save position. So now it's saying current save data. So here it's the same thing. We want to do this.saves.get dialogue data. Otherwise, it's going to go start set. There's no start set structure. Let's go look at our data in our scene here. So we go to our data in our scene. There's no start set, right? It starts at 0. Now we could do that. We could say that that's where it starts at. And it would give us more flexibility in our schema. But do we want to do that? Maybe, sure. Well, do we have an ends at? Default next, scene 2. You know, I'm going to just explicitly have a start set. I don't know why, but like I feel that maybe I might want to have an explicit start set. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so now we've changed the data structure. So here it will try that. We'll try to do that, which is good. Otherwise, grab the dialogue ID here, which I think that this one has, that's what it's called. Maybe it's called like current dialogue ID. That's something we need to go check here. So we'll go back to our saves manager and it's called current dialogue. It doesn't say dialogue ID. It says current dialogue, current scene. So we could say current dialogue. Yeah, this one's also just current scene. This is also called scene ID. So what are we going to call it, right? We're not being consistent with our names. So I'm going to call this scene, chapter, dialogue. Dialogue ID, dialogue chapter, dialogue scene. There we go. So now it's very clear what's going on. So now we have dialogue ID, and here it starts at that dialogue point there. It starts at. Okay, so now we have our dialogue loaded. We have chapter ID. The chapter is the actual file that we're loading in, I think, because the scene ID, which is it? Which is it? We'll go back over to here and take a look at this. I didn't really think about how chapters work. So here we have a scene, right? It's loading in this specific one. But there's nothing about chapters. Because I think that we have a chapter structure somewhere else here. Because chapters orchestrate scene-to-scene actions, but if that's the case, then why do we have this? Because this actually tells you where to go next. So maybe this default next ID shouldn't be called that. It really should be called ends at true. Like, you know, I don't know. Right? Like, because the other question is like, how do we pull that data here? But I'm going to leave this as default next ID like that for now. But that doesn't make sense because this one here is this, and this one's obviously a scene, and this is not even called the same thing. So right now we'll just call, I'm going to just say ends. For now, ends true. And we'll have to figure that out as we work through this. But now we're starting to think about that. I know like there was chapter orchestration somewhere in here. I'm not seeing it here. We have character data. It shouldn't really repeat the character data here like that. But I remember at one point we had like a structure for, maybe it was like story manager. That's probably what it was. Ah, yeah, story manager. So then what's the dialogues manager's responsibility? Because if the story manager has this stuff, then why are we loading the stuff in here, right? Maybe it's the story manager that makes more sense because here we load the chapters and it says what order the chapters have to go in. So if you go here, you'd be like, okay, I'm at the story. I need to load the intro. And that's actually what this is. I'm going to go change this to intro. Well, that might actually mess it up, and I don't really want to clear out the data right now. So maybe the dialogue manager is a bit of a redundant thing, and the story manager is really managing the story. But we'll figure that out here in just a moment. So anyway, we have the dialogue data here. It's loading the dialogue data for this particular scene. It's getting the current dialogue ID, which I guess is fine, and then it starts the dialogue. And then it says display the dialogue. So, you know, is the manager responsible for displaying it? No, because it has its own interface. It's really there to manage the data. And here it says update character, update background. This stuff we can set, but we probably want to do that on the game loop. Speaker's name, stuff like that. Yeah, this is a little bit, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stop right now. Okay, because I got to go in and make dinner. But we're starting to get somewhere. And so we have this dialogue, story manager, and where things intersect. And so I need to figure out how to get through that in order to display what it is I want to display. And obviously, at one point, the system made something that worked, but I'm obviously not going with that anymore. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.